believe that there's something wrong with her. She's disturbed, she's unhappy, and she thinks it's about feminism and the patriarchy and about abortion. But the reality is she's just not stable. Like the majority of people in Hollywood, they're just not stable human beings. I would highly advise that you boycott this film, no matter how much your children love Snow White.
And if you disagree with this sentiment, I don't need your business. Thanks.
They spent $170 million to make the thing, and it had the lowest opening, under $50 million, of any of these live-action Disney remakes that they've ever had.
And, you know the saying, go woke, get broke, and Disney's going to lose money on this movie. And I believe it only made less than $1 million in China.
If Disney wants to make more woke films that tank at the box office, they are more than welcome to do that. But maybe think of an original idea.
A few lessons for Disney. Number one, stop cannibalizing all your old IP. Like, it's really bad. It's really bad business. Number two, please stop changing all of the historic plots, which actually have meaning to generations of people, to instead become generic woke story about how woman leads revolutionary uprising and she don't need no man.
What happens when one bold actress manages to tank a Disney classic before it even hits theaters? That's exactly what unfolded with Disney's live-action Snow White, a film once hyped to be the studio's next billion-dollar crown jewel. Big budget, legendary legacy, surefire success. Or so they thought. Instead, it spiraled into one of Disney's most public flops, and at the heart of the chaos, Rachel Zegler. This wasn't just a typical box office stumble. It was a full-blown disaster fueled by a lead actress who alienated fans before the first trailer even dropped. From the jump, Zegler's attitude rubbed people the wrong way. She criticized the original 1937 animated film, dismissed its love story, and made headlines for calling the prince a stalker. Her interviews didn't feel like promotion. They felt like takedowns. She's not dreaming about true love. She's not going to be saved by the prince. Rachel Zegler, in one of many viral sound bites that lit the internet on fire. Instead of honoring the original, Zegler came across as trying to rewrite it, with a tone that screamed, "I know better." And fans, they were not having it. Disney thought they had cast their perfect princess. She could sing, she had the look, and she even had a Golden Globe. But the moment her casting went public, the backlash was immediate. One viral comment summed up the fan reaction. Snow White is supposed to be pale as snow. That single sentence set the stage for a never-ending social media war, one fueled by debates over authenticity, legacy, and accusations of injecting unnecessary modern politics into classic fairy tales. The remake was already on shaky ground, delayed by COVID and rocked by on-set mishaps that cost millions. But Zegler didn't help. Most stars would have smiled, played nice, and protected the brand. Instead, she doubled down. She dismissed the original film, the very foundation of Disney, animation, and told fans to expect something entirely different. Snow White isn't about love anymore. She's a leader now. At that point, the fairy tale was officially over. Fans didn't see a beloved character reimagined. They saw a lecture wrapped in a Disney dress. By 2022, Snow White was stuck in limbo. Controversy had snowballed. Outrage was growing. And Zegler's soundbites only added fuel to the fire. Disney went radio silent. The movie was iced. And whispers began. Whispers of internal panic, legal issues, and a major rebranding effort just to keep the project afloat. What was supposed to be a magical reimagining turned into a marketing nightmare. And at the center of it all stood Rachel Zegler, once hailed as a rising star, now seen by many as the face of a project that lost its way before it even began.
For I think young people everywhere to see themselves in.
Snow White is running for president.
I'm launching my campaign.
They have been making this film for a very long time because it's just been so scandalized. And so they had to basically put it on ice after people were firstly outraged by Rachel Zegler speaking ill about the prior film, the film that she was remaking. And it's such a weird thing for their whole pitch as feminists to be is like the best thing you can strive to be as a man. Everything will be great once we just act exactly like men. There's nothing special about being a woman. Let's just be men. It just doesn't feel like we're winning.
So no prince or a different kind of prince?
I'm sure a lot of people will assume it's a love story just because like we cast a guy in the movie.
Right.
Andrew Burnap, great dude.
Yeah.
All of Andrew's scenes could get cut. Who knows? It's Hollywood, baby.
Who the hell are you to say all of Andrew's scenes could get cut? Like, who are you?
Oh my God.
Are you Disney? I've read your book, and I have. It's a phenomenal book. You're losing generation of loyal viewers. When you think about Snow White, what is the premise? What is the story?
It's a love story. It's a love story.
It's a dream for a girl to grow up and a man falls in love.
I'm really upset that it's the biggest theme here is that it's anti-men. She called him a stalker.
She slammed it for being anti-men and even called the prince a stalker. Yeah, she really said that. Fans weren't just annoyed, they were outraged. Comments flooded in like, who does she think she is, trashing a childhood classic? And it didn't stop there. Zegler doubled down in interviews, proudly saying this new version had no love story because it was all about that independent woman storyline now. Girl boss energy or not, fans weren't having it. This wasn't the feminist flex they signed up for. They wanted timeless fairy tale magic, not a preachy reboot. Her attitude oozed entitlement, like she was too cool for the very story that gave her the spotlight in the first place. Meanwhile, Disney's PR team had to be losing sleep. The hashtag #not my Snow White exploded overnight. And just like that, a feel-good fantasy became a front page fiasco. One loudmouth moment flipped the whole game for the dwarfs. Literally, out of nowhere, Game of Thrones star Peter Dinklage hopped on a podcast and unleashed, "Why is Disney still doing this backwards dwarf stuff?" he snapped. And just like that, the studio panicked. Overnight, the classic 7 dwarfs were gone. Poof, replaced with CGI magical creatures. And of course, Rachel Zegler couldn't help herself. She just had to jump into the drama. She hopped online, acting like she single-handedly saved the world from stereotypes. All proud, all performative. Like, girl, calm down. But behind the scenes, actual little person actors were furious. They weren't just mad, they felt robbed. She's out here preaching while we're out of work, said one comment that went viral. This was supposed to be a moment for representation, and now that spotlight was straight up snatched. Then came the leaked pics. Those so-called magical creatures looked like bargain bin blobs with dollar store lighting.
But she's gone on to talk about this film numerous times, how she once thought Snow White was creepy, she doesn't like the prince, she thinks she should get paid more because she has to wear that dress, she should get paid for streaming, for every hour she has to wear the dress. I mean, talk about biting the hand that feeds you.
Fans clowned them instantly. The memes were brutal. Meanwhile, actors called it a slap in the face, a chance stolen for the sake of fake progress. And where was Zegler? Too busy strutting around like she was rewriting Hollywood's rule book. Her "I know better" attitude only made things worse. This wasn't empowerment, it was chaos. The production was already a wreck. Endless delays, expensive reshoots, money vanishing like fairy dust. Add in this dwarf drama, and the whole fairy tale started to rot from the inside out.
Just when you thought it couldn't get any messier, boom! Rachel Zegler opened her mouth again. And this time, she hit a whole new nerve. Instead of promoting Snow White like a good lead would, Zegler practically rolled her eyes at the idea that anyone still cared about the classic love story. "She's not going to be saved by a man," she said with a smug grin. "She's not going to dream about true love." Supposedly empowering, right? But fans weren't buying it. People didn't want a lecture shoved into their fairy tales. They wanted that timeless Disney magic, not a political manifesto wrapped in a ball gown. The internet lit up. "If you hate the original story so much," one viral comment read, "why'd you even take the role?" At that point, even the casual fans were checking out. Memes, rants, reaction videos, it exploded. Some fans called for a boycott. Others just laughed at how Disney managed to turn something so simple into such a public disaster. The marketing team scrambled to spin it, but it was too late. The damage was deep. And Rachel? She kept talking, posting clips, dropping snarky comments, acting like the backlash was just people who couldn't handle change. But it wasn't about change. It was about respect. And then, it got even weirder. Disney decided the dwarfs weren't woke enough. Instead of casting little people, actors who've historically filled those roles, they went with CGI magical creatures. Why? Because of earlier criticism from Peter Dinklage, who called out the hypocrisy of hiring a Latina Snow White, but still portraying dwarfs in a backwards way. So Disney folded. No dwarfs, just mystical forest creatures. The backlash grew. People on both sides were now upset. What was once a charming reboot had turned into an identity crisis. Every time Zegler spoke, it felt like another jab at the story's legacy. A legacy that meant something to generations. Instead of uniting audiences, this remake divided them. What should have been a feel-good fairy tale became one of Disney's most embarrassing PR disasters. And Zegler, she went from rising star to PR liability. Fast forward to 2024, Snow White is crawling toward a delayed 2025 release. Zegler had every chance to lay low, regroup, and let things cool down. But nope. Right after the US election, she hopped on Instagram and dropped another hot mess.
But nope, she doubled down. Right after the US election, she jumped on Instagram and unleashed another hot mess. Instead of promoting unity or, staying out of it, she came for Trump supporters like a wrecking ball. May you never know peace. She posted, followed by a moody pic holding what looked like burnt coffee with a screw you all attitude. It was full on entitled brat mode, and the internet exploded. One clip in particular caught fire. Conservative commentator Megyn Kelly lost it on air. This rude little punk needs to go. She snapped. Disney, fire her now. The rant went viral, clocking millions of views in hours. And just like that, the boycott train hit full speed. On X, formerly Twitter, fans were swearing off the film like it was cursed. Not a cent from me, one post read. I'll watch the cartoon. This ain't it. So what did Zegler do next? The classic PR move. Fake cry, post a shaky apology, and blame it on her emotions. I got emotional, oops.
What is this process now where it's like in order to be inclusive, you have to completely destroy storylines, completely destroy franchises? I don't believe in that. I don't think that consumers believe in that either.
That was it. No accountability, no real remorse. And guess what? Nobody was buying it. Her apology flopped harder than the trailer. People saw straight through it. At this point, even Disney had to be wondering, how do we put this fire out? By the time 2025 rolled around, the Snow White remake had turned into a full-on corporate nightmare. The movie wasn't just tanking, it was sinking before it even premiered, and insiders were leaking like crazy. Anonymous crew members started spilling the tea, and it wasn't pretty. One source claimed the set was tense every single day. She acted like she was above it all, they said about Zegler. Wouldn't take direction, always complaining, always on her phone. Another insider hinted that reshoots were happening not because of technical problems, but because Disney was trying to salvage her performance. Oof. Meanwhile, execs were reportedly in panic mode behind closed doors. Merch sales were flatlining, test audiences were giving the film brutal feedback, and parents were saying they didn't even want to take their kids to see it. Too much drama, one mom posted. We just want a fun movie, not Hollywood preaching at our kids.
Peter Dinklage, you're rich. We're not. We're trying to be extras, or, we're in Johnny Knoxville's Jackass if we're lucky. And so for them, they're like, you're not gonna cast us to be inclusive and progressive, but these guys at Disney, they're not that bright. They're not that smart, and we see that because they can't come up with any new IP.
To make things worse, leaked footage showed the film looking more like a washed-out TikTok filter than a magical fantasy. Fans online said the CGI was laughable. The script sounded like it was written by a Twitter thread, and the vibe totally off. And Zegler, still unbothered. She kept posting artsy selfies, cryptic captions, and barely addressed the controversy, like she was living in her own world while the movie crumbled around her. What was meant to be Disney's next billion-dollar princess film had spiraled into one of their messiest disasters ever, and the lead actress was acting like she didn't even notice the wreckage. One brutal comment online said it all. Her snotty attitude wrecked the movie before it even dropped, and honestly, they weren't wrong. While Disney kept quiet, whispers behind the scenes were growing louder. Word on the street, the studio wanted her gone, but the cameras had already stopped rolling, too late to fix the damage. Rachel Zegler had become a walking PR nightmare, and things were only getting worse. Disney had bet big on this remake, Massive budget, high hopes, star power. But when March 21st, 2025 hit, that gamble backfired hard.
You are not entitled to call for Trump supporters to be harmed. Like, you are actually not entitled to do that. And so let me just remind you, Rachel Zegler, of what the map looks like.
You know things are bad when your Disney movie flops, and you're out here wishing harm on half the country. Yep, that's where we're at. Snow White finally hit theaters and face planted. It limped in with a weak $43 million domestic opening. Sounds okay. Until you remember the budget was over $200 million, Disney was banking on at least $150 million just to stay afloat. Instead, empty seats, silent theaters, no kids in princess dresses, no packed-out family nights, just crickets. From the jump, the trailers drained all the hype, flat visuals, bland energy, cheap CGI, and Zegler serving robotic smiles with zero fairy tale magic. Critics weren't kind either. A woke bore with no soul. The dwarves look like rejected NPCs from a glitchy mobile game. Even Gal Gadot couldn't save it, and she was the evil queen. But the real problem? The bite? Fans hated it. The story felt hollow. The tone was preachy. The magic? Gone. People walked out saying, "That didn't even feel like Disney." Meanwhile, merch gathered dust. Dwarf toys stuffed into clearance bins like forgotten Happy Meal prizes. What should have been a nostalgic billion-dollar slam dunk turned into a cautionary tale about what happens when ego hijacks the fairy tale. And then, because it wasn't bad enough, Zegler jumps online. "I'll love you through these next 4 years as best I can. F. Donald Trump." Wishing harm, no peace for voters, the whole 9 yards. Stable? Not exactly. Professional? Not even close. At this point, someone's got to say it. Studios need to stop letting their stars run wild. Put mic bans in contracts or something. Because one loose cannon can burn the whole project down. And that's what happened here. Behind the scenes, Hollywood's rattled. Disney execs are reportedly spiraling. Rumors of layoffs, scrapped remakes, a total creative reset. One insider spilled, "This project killed the vibe. No one wants to touch another classic right now." And the damage? Way deeper than bad reviews. Once you include marketing losses, sources say the financial hit could push past $150 million. Not just a flop, a meltdown. And dead center of the wreckage? Rachel Zegler. "She's talented, no doubt," one casting agent said. "But that attitude? Career killer."
Become a walking red flag. Her woke rants, the diva energy, the smug interviews. Hollywood's not here for it anymore. Directors are quietly backing off. Studios are ghosting. No one wants to risk it.
And they postponed the release of this thing, Ben, for a year because it's their star, Rachel Zegler, was so unlikable, told all Trump supporters that they could off, excuse me, but she did. That was just in November. They didn't even know she was going to do that one. Said she hated Snow White, mocked the fact that there was a prince, and that she falls in love as opposed to leaning into her own power.
Disney's now pushing Snow White to streaming in hopes of cleaning up the mess. But the internet isn't forgetting. Memes, edits, jokes, it's all there. The stink won't wash off. Zegler's gone from rising star to industry punchline. Now she's got a new title, Rachel Zegler, Fairy Tale Wrecker. What was supposed to be a magical revival ended up a flaming wreck, and the fallout, it's just getting started.
Cry me a river. She's just exactly everything that we can't stand.
And just when you thought Disney had hit rock bottom with Snow White, nope, it kept sinking. The aftermath turned into straight up reputation damage. Other studios started watching Disney flop like a warning sign. Internally, executives were holding emergency meetings. One leak even claimed there was a full-blown what went wrong memo making rounds across departments. Meanwhile, media outlets kept dragging it. Think pieces popped up overnight. Is Hollywood done with princesses? When reboots go rogue. Headlines were savage, and every single one of them dragged Zegler through the mud. Even brand deals started drying up. One company quietly pulled the plug on a campaign that was supposed to launch with her face front and center. Another postponed indefinitely. Fashion houses stopped inviting her to events. Stylists were backing off. It wasn't a soft drop. It was a blacklist by silence.
As you just can't close your mouth. You just can't be sane, even when you do open your mouth. I think this girl does not deserve a feature-length film, but rather she deserves to be in a padded cell.
You want to trash that legacy? That company that now Disney has screwed up the last 5 years trying to please a small percentage of minorities in America? Yeah, we're sick of it. So the more you do this, Disney, Iger, Rachel Zegler, whatever her name is, yes, this is exactly the backlash you're going to get from parents who have kids who are your customers. You're supposed to win parents over. You're talking to kids. The parents pay for the tickets. You have to be a dummy as a marketer to be saying, if I'm Bob Iger, you know what we're doing? Emergency meeting. We're putting Snow White on hold for 2 years. And guess what? Pay her a couple $1 million. Go away. We're going to bring another person to play this role because you just screwed this thing up.
Zegler's social media didn't help either. Instead of showing growth or owning the mess, she kept posting artsy reels, pretending like none of it mattered. One post showed her laughing on set, captioned with a vague quote about standing in your truth. The comments were brutal. People flooded in with clown emojis and "you ruined Disney" replies. Even her diehard defenders were running out of steam. What once looked like bold confidence now read as full-blown delusion. And Disney, now stuck with a fairy tale that's too toxic to touch. The merch won't move, the streaming numbers are stalling before launch, and Rachel Zegler's name is basically radioactive. From dream roll to career freefall, all in one messy, avoidable crash. By the time
Spring 2025 hit, and it wasn't just a flop. It was a full-blown case study in how to destroy a legacy. Insiders started calling it the Snow White effect, a warning to every studio about what happens when ego, politics, and PR disasters collide. Then, the streaming numbers dropped, and they were trash. Even dumped onto Disney Plus, no one cared. Parents skipped it. Kids didn't ask for it. The few who did click play, they bailed halfway through. No rewatching, no word of mouth, just silence. Meanwhile, the original Snow White started trending again. Fans were posting side-by-sides, dragging the remake's soulless vibes. "This ain't Snow White," one viral TikTok said, cutting between Rachel Zegler's scenes and the 1937 classic. The difference? Brutal. And while all that backlash piled up, Rachel stayed silent. No real apology, no ownership, just moody Instagram posts, cryptic captions, and zero accountability. Even her agency, reportedly rethinking her future. Translation: they're over it too, because this wasn't just about a bad movie. This was about broken trust, studios versus audiences. Fans felt mocked, ignored, dismissed. And the price? Over $200 million burned, a brand reputation in tatters, and an actress who went from rising star to industry warning sign. Nobody grew up with that crap. Nobody asked for that version of Snow White. And guess what? Fairy tales are supposed to have happy endings. This one? It ended in wreckage. Disney gambled on a cocky newcomer who didn't care about the story. And it blew up in their face. Rachel Zegler landed the iconic role, then spent months trashing the film, mocking critics, and alienating fans. She came off rude, preachy, and out of touch. Then came the dwarves, swapped out for weird, glitchy CGI creatures that got roasted. Online. Rumors even swirled of behind-the-scenes drama with Gal Gadot, because of course, the chaos never stopped. In the end, an $87 million domestic haul against a $200+ million budget. Not just a flop, a collapse. Rachel's star is fading. Fast. Disney's left looking clueless, and fans? They've had enough. Some were upset over casting. Most were furious about her attitude. But all agreed. This remake was a train wreck. Now Disney's licking its wounds. Merchandise is collecting dust in clearance aisles. Rachel Zegler has become a meme. Gal's unbothered. And Rachel? Still in the hot seat. Can she recover? Can Disney bounce back? Or are we watching the final crash of the remake era? This ain't a fairy tale ending. It's a loud, messy wake-up call. Got thoughts? Drop them in the comments. Smash that like button, subscribe, and hit the bell so you don't miss tomorrow's deep dive. I'll see you in the next one.